Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Challenges we have had to overcome in 2020.
Find your own voice.
The world has become united by the unseen, knowing there are no guarantees for tomorrow.
Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within.
For the day has come for you to be a great leader.
The time has come to break away from the pain, distraction, experience the unthinkable.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within. Welcome to Gossip Talk Shows, everyone. Please feel free to actually type and communicate with us. Our topic today, we're talking about mental health problems. I have my two lovely ladies with me today. Dr. Laura, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are in the world. My name is Dr. Laura. I'm a life coach and licensed professional counselor, author, speaker, and advocate of everything that is good in the world. I'm happy to be here, calling you from Chicago. Very cold here, warm in the studio. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bigot. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you, Numsa. And let me ask you, have you ever hesitant if let's say you have a conditions, whether you perhaps has a depression, an anxiety, or something even more, have you ever wondered, if I say this to somebody, what would they think about me? What do you think when someone tell you, "Oh, hi, Agadir, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us." What do you think when, if say someone, a friend or something, said, "You know what? Actually, I've been on medications all this time for this mental condition or that mental conditions." Many times in this society, we have an opinion about something, and sometimes it is truly a society opinion. Sometimes we have our own opinion. Or is there really an opinion on mental health? Is there really an opinion if you have a health condition, particularly when it's related to emotional and mental health? And is there an impact of that? And if there is, what can you do for yourself as well as your loved one, such that whatever that going on in the society, or what you might perhaps think going on in the society, is not affecting you and your loved ones, and you and your loved ones continue to thrive even easier and with more fun, which is something that I help people do regardless of what's going on in your life. It's possible for you to be able to easily thrive the way as I describe in my book, Seeking Peace, with me helping you, with us helping you, with me being a grief transformation coach and author. And I look forward to sharing this with you today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Bigot. So our topic today, basically, as Dr. Bigot has explained, is breaking the stigma about suicidal mental health. And welcome to Gossip Talk Shows, everyone. Please. What was happening now? Okay, so basically, I love this topic because I relate to it. I had a sibling that had mental health problems. My older sister is passed now, but she had mental health problems, and the stigma in Africa is kind of a little bit better than here in this country. In this country, basically, somebody will actually take their own life. And even in Africa now, things have started becoming like that. People taking their own lives because there's not much support for families, and people feel that when they have mental health problems, it's like having a headache. It's like having any other sickness. But I don't know why people feel that they shouldn't disclose. When you have a mental health problems, you shouldn't disclose to members of your families or to your friends. Some people do, but they get rejected by members of families or they get dismissed, basically pushed away. It's like basically because people don't want to talk about it. And then that can lead to somebody taking their own life or somebody. I actually relate to somebody, my friends, she took her own life a few months ago as well. And that is it is a real problem during lockdown. And that things are going on. And they were talking to Amanda yesterday, and she was saying in Canada as well, the rate has gone up as well, people taking their own lives. So Dr. Bigot and Dr. Laura, please, one of you can take the stage and just talk about your experiences about mental health problems. If you have had it, and take the stage. I'll start with Dr. Laura.
Well, regarding mental health, I think it's quite apropos concerning our current climate, and the pandemic has just exacerbated the need for it. And I should preface that by saying I think the pandemic has made it more apparent to some of us that the need was always there. It's just the format with which it's taken for us to understand the necessity and for us to help folks come to terms with whatever it is that they're dealing with, and that it doesn't have to stay that way. And certainly, even moreover, more importantly, is that there's a preemptive, a preventative aspect to it, that mental health is going to be there regardless. Either we're healthy or we're not, and mental, our mind is there, which is different than the brain for sure. So I do think that almost ironically, it's a blessing, the pandemic. And I take these words very, very strongly and deliberately, is that I'm not saying that the pandemic has helped the world, only to the extent that it may have helped us understand that there are things that go on behind closed doors that people don't talk about. And when we're in that confined spot, it's almost like a pressure cooker. And once it gets too dense and too thick inside, it just explodes. And certainly we would never want anyone to go through that turmoil, or their life or anyone else's life to be harmed in that process and as a result. In terms of the trajectory where it's going, I think it's going to get bigger. I think it's going to become more and more relevant, because even when we had a lockdown, specifically in the beginning, we had to change our lives, and that's not fun. So then what happens when, hopefully, when the strict parameters about engaging with other people in the workplace or the grocery store, or even in our own families in some accentuating situations, that we have to, again, do a tango and dance with the reinstatement of the same things that used to be relevant and required prior to pandemic, that now they might be going back to that, which some people have never experienced before, and or they realize that, wow, I've been in this for this long, how much longer am I going to stay in this mental state? And I think it's going to become even more relevant because we're talking about it. So things have to be done. It's not just talking the talk, it's walking that talk.
Dr. Bigot, are you there?
Okay. Well, it'll be helpful if I remember to unmute. So, yes, absolutely. It is back to your question, Numsa. You are asking, do I think that is there a stigma? I think it is, interestingly, it is a little bit of both. Being a patient at some point in life, back in the day, being a patient with a or so-called a patient of mental health conditions. And back in the day, there were times in my young age where I was diagnosed with severe depressions and eventually told that, well, you are to stay, here's your medications. We finally find one that work for you. Stay in it forever. And I am grateful that was then. And so there are I think it's a very interesting dance. Dr. Laura used the word tango or a dance, and it's a a dance of where, yes, there is to a degree, depend on the society as well. We have international audience in here. Depend on where you are. In certain country, it is more than other. In certain Asian country, for instance, it is still, if you have mental health condition, it is still, you look at as if it's a weakness. In the past, and perhaps this is when it coming from the past, where we don't understand when people have mental health conditions, particularly when they are severely depressed or they have schizophrenia or something, and then we because lack of understanding, we accuse them of being possessed by the demon or something like that back in the day. We know history book, and so that's actually causes the stigma, and people worry about that. But I think it's also a dance or combinations of what the society truly is saying and what our loved ones might say and what we think that they might say. It was the longest time. It was to the point that toward the end of it, before I would ever, God forbid, anybody would ever know that I have depressions. This was back then. God, let's make sure that I hide this pill as much as possible. If possible, it's from, from even people who I live with in my household. It was like, God forbid if the cats see them. so something like that. And so it is, and in truth, when I finally share it with some people because of some reason and another, they said, "Oh, honey, it's we're here for you. We're here for you. You don't have to be going through this on your own." And it's actually helpful, definitely, when you have somebody being there for you. And so it's a combination between of what the society might truly say, or you might have read what the society say at some point, and then what you perceive or think that they're going to do that, and the two just kind of add on to each other is in my experience. And even now, I work with a large group of people, and it is not just in mental health, sadly enough, it is also with grief. People feel that it's okay for them to grieve for a certain amount of time, which is very interesting. And again, this is from combination society or personal, where they feel it's okay. You know what? Let me check here. Oh, my company says I have bereavement for a week. That means I'm okay to grieve for a week. And then after that, well, I come back to work and people say, "Hey, can you do this and that? I better put on this happy face here, even though half of my family member has just passed because of one way or another." And that just make it so much harder when you are grieving. And it is really sometimes heartbreaking for me to see that going on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Biggett. I'm glad that you mentioned that people believe that you have to, like you said, that you felt that you had to hide your depression. And Dr. Laura as well, you talk about what happens behind the closed doors. We don't know. So many things that happen, and sometimes the people find it hard to confide in people. I'm in a millionaire group club, and one day one of the girls decided to actually talk personal stuff instead of talking about business. So she was talking, and some people decided to reply. It was like a conversation, and everyone responded. Were like, "This is a business group. I'm out of here if you guys are talking about personal." So and then I said to them, "Hang on a minute. This is a business group, right? And in order for you to do a business with me, I need to get to know you." So I said, "Why don't you allow people basically to open about who they are, so you'll be able to connect with them?" So I was like, if you come to me and say, "Okay, this is my business, this is what I'm selling," I'm going to say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hang on a minute. I don't know you. I need to know who you are." So I was like, I explained to them that when business connection, yes, we all connect for business, But at the same time, we got to know our values. We got to share our values. We got to share our beliefs so we can actually connect properly. And so I was like, yes. And somebody responded, I was like, actually, I've never thought that way. And the reason why I've learned that lesson, Dr. Biggett, we basically lived in Essex and we were so close with my friends, really, really close. And one of my friends, like when you look at people, there's happy couple, they are family. Is that family that at them, you like perfect family? So this girl, she jumped the river and she killed herself. And we all felt that we failed her because when you talk to somebody, if you are at Ngozi talk show and you are not able to confide in me with what you're going through, so that means that I have not tried hard to basically to be your friend. I've not tried hard to be to basically to do my purpose on earth. So I've made a commitment that wherever I go, whoever I meet, I'm never gonna say, okay, my connection with you is for business. I've got to give you the opportunity to say, if you want to cry, I'm here. If you want to talk about anything, I'm here. So we in the society, we don't have that. So in the group, I had to say, everyone, calm down. We are here for business. Yes, I understand. Let them talk. Let them tell us their values. Let them tell us their beliefs. Because it is allowed to talk about basically to make a authentic friendship. I think it is important. And I think basically what happens in the society, we don't respond properly. The friendship and the connection is that we connect. There, if I'm connecting with you for business, that's what I've realized with many people. It has to be specific for business. It cannot be personal. Like I have my business coach with Desmond O'Connor, Dr. Biggett. My relationship with Des. For me, basically, Des is my brother, is my family, and you cannot talk about him if I'm in the room. Basically, that's how much I protect those around me. And anyone at Ngozi talk shows, you cannot talk about them. Or if I see them, they're not they're not coming on the show. I have to find out, is there anything I can do? And you do that, Dr. Biggett, as well. You always check me out. Are you okay? And then you always look out for me. If you go and speak somewhere, you see things different, you always come back to change things around. And that's the relationship that I think we should have. But yes, Gina is amazing. We don't have that kind of a relationship now within the society. Dr. Laura, I love to hear you going deep with this mental health, because I know you have some really amazing stories basically to share with our audience. So please just feel free.
I keep jotting down these notes here because this is just amazing. These bombs that are being dropped. And I got to tell you, I do have my own experience with this, and it's humbling to say. At the same time, it's quite refreshing, for lack of a better word. I'm relieved when I hear the stories that are shared on this stage and the stories that are communicated to me by clients, even loved ones. I think that's the hardest one for me, is that when a loved one, a family member comes out to me, because there's a lot of stigma within the family sometimes that we don't talk about that. We're not, we don't want to go there because there may be an association that some may assume, well, if so-and-so knows, someone out in the community, for example, knows what's happening, then our story is going to get out there. We can't tell anybody what's going on, because then we'd be judged. And that's the thing with stigma. If we're judged, if I'm a reflection of my whole family. So if I am out in the world and I say, I'm struggling with X, Y, or Z, then there's an inherent assumption that the group think, the family think, for example, has, that if this person, you're not representing my family well, so it's going to reflect on all of us. And that's a very scary thing to do, because then not only are we experiencing our mental health crisis, and maybe we're mentally healthy, whatever it is. But in this situation, if we're not feeling well, then, and we can't turn to those within our family because they don't know how to deal with it, because you just don't have those problems. Because if you do, it's a reflection on me. If then you go out into the community and acknowledge that you're struggling, then there's a potential, there's this guilt, like, oh, this shame, I can't possibly do this. What am I going to, what are they going to think? And then if and when they get the word that you've only indicated stuff about yourself, you didn't bring up anybody's names or specific situations and all that, especially live in a grand platform like your own, that how then do we know how to ever learn how to cope with our feelings? And then moreover, who do we trust? So for example, we often hear of, at least in the States, of stranger danger, that there's a possibility that anybody for that matter, there's a possibility that they would be targeted for bullying or even worse. That if I say something, not only one, that it's going to reflect poorly on me. Number two, there's an assumption that it's going to reflect poorly on my family. Number three, the family's likely going to not talk down, to insult, to denigrate, be unsupportive. So then where does the person turn? Now, this was not my experience growing up, and I can't tell you how many clients I've heard it from. The only thing I can say is that when we are experiencing these feelings and we're in the depths, the grips of it, it feels like the grips. The only way to turn to is internally, with the help of someone who's professional, who's able to help them dive in. I figure it like this. The client, the coach, the practitioner is kind of like Glenda the Good Witch from The Wizard of Oz. And the client is Dorothy. They already know everything that they need to tap into. They just don't know how to get at it. And can you imagine having all those resources and skills and abilities and talents and not have anything to do with them? Or maybe the example that I gave regarding the family, maybe that's not an issue. Maybe they're very supportive, yet they're not qualified to help other than just to listen. What can I do to help? Just listen. I want to fix this. Just listen. And when the family is supportive, it's a beautiful thing. More often than not, for anybody who's listening, I'll end with this, is that when we take the moment to be silent with our thoughts and our feelings, which they do come up, they creep up, then what do you do with that? What do you do with it? Do you say, me too? I'm struggling too? And when we do that, then there's a solidarity among the people with whom we have a relationship with. And when we can find that tribe, when we can find whatever outlet that we have access to, then everything changes. Because when we change the way that we look in the world that we look at changes. That's from Wayne Dyer. Everybody's got something. It's our requirement. It's our responsibility to ask for help and receive some help, receive treatment, whatever it is. So I hope that helps. And the gist of it is that it could fluctuate your mental health on a monthly, weekly, daily, minute-wise. But when we learn how to cope with those feelings, instead of being shunned off to the side, that there is healing in that.
I love that you say that, Dr. Laura, that it's the two things I would say, something that you say is in there. First of all is, what do you do and to listen. If you don't know, if you're not a professional, to listen, and because that is something that is sometimes we don't know. Somebody come to us, we don't know what to do, but then because we all meant very well, we try to help, give advice and things. And many times, if you're not a trained professional, it's actually creating more damage than good, so to say. We know this very, very well with grief. With the grief, most people don't know there has been a grief pandemic before even the COVID-19 pandemic, and that's because there's so many misunderstanding about that, and people giving the popular things such as, oh, just give it time, or oh, let's get busy. And it might temporarily work as a temporary band-aid. But if you truly are having a lot of grief, it can eventually create unresolved grief and compound grief and so forth. But that's a whole nother story as well. But that's to listen, and it is very whenever I talk this, one thing that we share with people is to be a heart with ears and open hands. You might have heard me say this before, Numsa, to be a heart with ears and open hands. And what is that? To be a heart with ears and open hands, when somebody come to you, is to listen with compassion and no judgment, and simply have an open hands. If the person asks for really a lot of advice, you do your very best to direct that person to the place where they can get professional advice. And if the persons just want to talk, because some people really truly just want to express their heart, so to say, and don't really want anything beyond that, then just let them listen, let them speak with and listen with compassion. Now, I have, every time I say that, almost reliably in every larger audience, people say, yeah, but then it feels like we're not doing anything. Well, there is truly there are, and yes, you can feel that way. There are people when you kind of just sit there and you're just listening, you feel like you're not doing anything, and you feel that you're not helpful. Well, two things you want to remember: that if you are actively listening and you even feeling compassion, there and we know that everything's energy, and the persons can feel that. The persons can feel there is a difference between you listening, that you sitting there and you say, okay, I'm hearing this and I'm thinking about what I'm going to do after this, and what am I going to prepare for my family for dinner, and that's, you could be doing that and you not saying anything, or you could be going there and say, it's okay, I'm listening, and then I answer here and there, but not giving a lot of advice. And so that is one thing I love, that's to listen. And there is a large difference between true listening and listening with a heart, with ears and open hand, and just sitting there and hearing the person says, where then yes, you might not be doing much of anything. And it doesn't mean, listening doesn't mean you're not allowed to say anything. It is a matter, it's more of let's not try to pour out advice and make the person do one or the other thing. And and to allow like Dr. Laura says, to allow professionals, because a lot of times there is so many things that's misunderstood in society, and to up to somebody who is knowledgeable too, because not the different society has different perceptions and understanding and doing things. And if you have somebody come from a different background who you're not familiar at all, and perhaps you want to refer the persons to somebody who are. And so that is something that we definitely want to keep in mind, whether you yourself are going through things or you actually are helping someone, then to make sure that that person or you feel listened to, and being able to do what it is that your heart call, and understand that it is not all the that you're not here alone, and you're not here alone. There are a lot of professionals that will be able to help you nowadays, particularly with all the resource out there.
Okay, can you hear me? Gina, I know Dr. Bigot, basically she's a grief coach, and you've lost your mom not long ago. And I just want to find out if you can type it and let us know mentally how it affected you, because that can affect you having to look after a member of your family, and then if they leave you behind, mentally it does affect you as well, and that can play a big problem with mental health problems. So how are you able to cope mentally, please? If anyone has a story or want to share and communicate our audience, please feel free to type. We'd love to hear your experience with regards to mental health problems, because we're not here to judge each other. And Gossip Talk Show is all about letting it all out so somebody else can learn from your own experience, which is good. And for me, like Dr. Bigot, you talk about being misunderstood, and I relate with this word very, very clear, because Dr. Laura talked about everyone has something. So what you got to do, you have to listen when somebody comes to you and they confide in you, which people don't really listen. You know, I had an experience in 2016. I basically fasted for 40 days. And on the last 40 days, because I was like crying out, basically, there were things that I was holding in my heart, unforgiveness, and crying out, basically just letting it all out there, to say, asking for forgiveness and forgiving people that have hurt me in the past that I was holding, and just letting it go, my basically, and my unforgiveness. And I remember when I was like having this breakthrough, and the voice coming out, a loud voice saying no. It's like I was in a dark place, and now I'm moving into a good place. Now I want to open the door where I meet God in my life. And the voice went, it was like no, it was like the slamming door. And I'm like ringing my pastor. I'm like, I'm confused. And then I confided in somebody, and my pastor came, and he's coming, and he's like, does this thing still speaking? I was like, yes, he is. And he was like, do you understand between God and Lucifer how it works? And I was like, yes, I do. And he was like, Satanism and God. And I was like, yes, I do. And he was like, your thing is stopping you basically moving forward, because you've been holding unforgiveness, and now you want God basically to accept you for who you are, and now you're moving on. And this person that I had confided, because I didn't know, I was making phone calls, and the next thing, social services are there, everybody's there, the police are there, and I was like, what now? What's going on? And it was so amazing how they handled the story. And the police, when they came, they asked some. They were like, we know her. We see her all the time because they are local police. And they asked me some questions, and they understood that it's more to do with my Christianity and stuff. It's got nothing to do with mental health. And my pastor explained to them that, because my pastor came as well, and he was like, I can hear it as well, but she needs to be disconnected. And he was like, basically, I think now you're moving on. You know what I'm saying? You moved on from where you were holding things in your heart that was causing darkness. And now, so he was explaining, because I've never had that experience. But the way the social services, the mental health team, how they handled it, I can tell you today, if it wasn't a psychiatric doctor that came and said, I don't need to section her, I don't need to do anything, this is something to do with the religion, she needs to be sorted out. Because my pastor basically said the simple, she needs to be disconnected, but I can't do it. I know people who can do it. So basically they put that team. But what amazed me was, if that doctor had put a signature, I would not be here today. If he had put a signature to say she has mental health problems, I would not be here doing gossip talk shows. Because what happened was, he said to them, I've traveled around the world, and I have experienced this with religion, so I'm not going to put my signature and do anything. I'm going to give her a chance to go and disconnect it. And after she's been disconnected, and I'm going to meet her again. And then I went and got disconnected. And 2 weeks later, we met up, and it was like, here you are. And I was like, the whole thing was like, it was like a big thing. But then the social services were trying to create a case against me and the mental health team. Honestly, I had to get a lawyer to kick them out. I had to kick them out, basically, to say, listen, now that the doctor has refused, and you guys know what I've been through. And I've realized that moment that sometimes people would not say anything and make things worse. Because if I hadn't said anything, I would have taken my own life. That's what that pastor would have said. He said, if I had not said anything, being scared, basically to say this is this thing that, because I knew he made sure that I make sure he made sure that I see that I'm connected between earth and somewhere else. I was on earth and I wasn't, so I could see the difference between. I was like, there's something wrong. So he explained to me that, and he said sometimes you have to understand. And my pastor said, you need to, whenever you have problems, this is teaching you that you need to speak up. So I've learned that moment that sometimes the people go quiet because they don't want to be judged. And they don't want, because for me it was a small problem, but it turned out to be a big thing. But at the same time, me, basically, I can speak for myself. So I was like, you guys have two choices. You can keep harassing me, or I can see you in court. And in the end, they were like, whoa, 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 we're trying to help you. I was like, no, you're not helping me now. You're disturbing me, invading my privacy. Over to you, Dr. Laura. Where are you? Where's Dr.
No,
Laura?
you might want to check on her. But yeah,
I
it's
don't
yeah.
know. I don't know what's happening. Do you want to take over, Dr. Bigot?
Yeah, and I love where you says that it is something that very many times people feel this way. People feel where there are where if they have, and it's a very interesting phenomena because this is part of the stigma, where if you have heart conditions or a physical heart, you have heart attack, or you need your heart valve is not quite functioning or whatever, you don't say, or you have an infections in your arm, for instance, you don't say, you will say, oh, I got an infections in my arm. If you have an infection in your arm, you don't say, oh well, I'm just a faulty. I'm just a faulty. I'm no good here because you got an infection on your arm. And at the same time, if many times people, whether it is with mental health or with grief, people feel that when there is something, when you're not feeling quite good emotionally or mentally, that there is something wrong with you as a person. And when with grief, when many people think many people think when their heart is broken that they are broken, and you are not broken. We know nowadays actually what we call mental health conditions, some of them are actually physical health. It's back in the day of the day, at the very beginning, somebody point out to me that part of the reasons I was having such a challenge is I came originally from Indonesia with very different diet and so forth, and we eat certain thing that has certain vitamin and nutrition and so on and so forth in there. Came here, live in East Washington State here in the United States, eat very different diet, did not have the nutritions that I need. And actually, I eventually realized that on my own because my fingernails and my hair start breaking from lack of this certain nutrition that is like it's in abundant on daily basis in Indonesian's diet, but not in the United States diet. And once I took care of that, I took certain vitamin and supplement, and then be very mindful about what I eat in general. Even that alone was helpful. And before that, if I didn't have my fingernails and my hair breaking, and actually somebody back home in Indonesia pointed out to me, I would have said, "Oh, I'm depressed and this and that, and and so forth." So many times there is actually an actual physical conditions related to that. And it might not be if you're running chemistry or something, maybe being in practice, you know, the doctor might run chemistry, we might run this lab and that lab, and it might not show up in your lab if they are not actually familiar again with you, your background, and so forth, if you have recently moved, as well as to check certain thing that is not a common thing. And this is not a prescription for anybody to go, by the way, and start running their own tests, lab tests or anything like that. But there are certain things that sometimes people don't look for in the general practice. And so you really want to have somebody who are highly trained in that. Now, the back to the initial conversations, though, many times we think that there is something wrong, and just like your experience with the social worker, they might not have the experience. And so know this: if you are experiencing whether it's mental health challenge or grief, and you feel many times we might feel that, oh, there is something, you feel that there's something wrong with, or when your heart is broken, you feel that you are broken. That why can many times I see on social media, which just make me cringe greatly, because people would just say, "Oh, you know, you're going through this. Okay, be strong, or you will be strong. You will be strong." I think everybody has done their very best to be strong. And what we want to remember, that it's not that they are not strong, they are strong. And many times when you tell somebody to be strong, it's actually make them feel that as if they are weak. So we want to be very mindful about that. Thank you for sharing, Gina. It's grief brain is real, but my family has not been supportive. But understand. Oh, Gina, my heart goes to you with everything my heart goes to you, Gina. Thank you for sharing. Thank you very much for sharing and for being very vulnerable with us. It can feel very vulnerable to share, and so thank you so much for sharing. That's you definitely uh, been experiencing quite a bit of thing. And yes, your and the heart, we know that, like we just says, how physical can influence our emotional health. Our emotional health can definitely influence our physical condition. There's no questions. It can definitely cause some physical conditions, everything's related. And I'm glad you are writing a book, because that can be some things that are very relieving and releasing. And at the same times, you will be doing your book will be helping for to other people as well. And so that is so beautiful. What an amazing work that you're doing, Gina. Thank you for doing that. And just know that particularly with you participating today, that feel welcome to reach out to me. And if you're writing a book, I've written a couple books in a similar manner as well. And so if you feel that you might be able to benefit from even just speaking with somebody who has experience in this, and knowledge and an understanding, or just a friend to chat with and share experience on writing the book, feel welcome to reach out to me. I'll write down my direct appointment link, and we can just chat if it's something that might benefit you, whether with the grief brain that impacting your family and you, or with writing the book, because I'd love to hear your experience on different thing and learn from each other. So I'm so glad that we connected, Gina. Thank you for doing that. So, but yeah, it is something that a lot of people don't understand, and so it can be challenging when we have people that don't understand. And what we want to do is really to find somebody, get a second opinion, get a third opinion on people, and find somebody that that's can, like you say, Numsa, let have somebody that can understand you, that like your pastor, like your pastors that could understand you, the doctor, with people with different background. I'm like Gina's here with her holistic doctor told her that her heart is inflamed, and that's what I was implying earlier. Certain people I actually initially trained in a traditional Western medicine, and that was a whole different another story. And they might not be thinking that, and they might just say, "Here's a pile of medications." By the way, nothing against medications. I definitely prescribe medications, but there are time and place where we want to say, is this person actually need medication, or is this person actually need time and know that she feel love and he feel that he can be himself and speak up? Because sometimes the medication is just a mess. Again, I'm not saying don't take medications. If you are on medications, as a doctor, I got to say this: do not stop your medications without consulting your physicians. And at the same time, it is something that we might want to say, okay, what is it that we need? What is it, and reach out to professionals who have an understanding. And you're in the process of opening another location, a trip. Yes, definitely. Doing what you need to do, doing what you need to do to take care of yourself. It could be an expansion of your work, and but doing what you feel called to do. For taking treatment, and you taking a massage, and you listening to things that's empowering you. That's definitely is a really important thing, because I mean, we're all human. Even if you look at machine, it's meant to have a break from time to time. So we don't want to be going and going and going and going nonstop, and actually allow ourselves some time to be able to take care of ourselves in a way that feels good to you. So that's so awesome that you're doing that, Gina. That's wonderful. Let's connect. I'd love to connect with you more, definitely, and see how we can support each other and learn from each other. What's your experience, Numsa?
Um, my experience with regards to mental health, or is there any questions you want to know, Dr. David?
Yeah. Sorry, am I on mute?
What,
Yes.
what happened to Dr. Laura, by the way?
Well, do you have her phone number? Well, she might have fallen asleep or something. It's like 7 o'clock in where she is. So but you might want to I don't know if you have her phone number to message her and to text her.
Her number is in the group, the guest speaker group. I'm using my phone. I'm broadcasting using my phone, so I can't get a hold of her. So basically, my experience, I relate to Gina, because when she says what she's going through, she's getting little support from her family. Unfortunately, that's what life is about. The family will not give you support that you need. So that's why it's very, very important you find a friend. For me, basically, I have my family, because me and my sister, we're very, very close. My sister, my older sister, the one who had a mental health problem, she was born 1974, and the other one 76, 78. So we were very, very, very close. So I'm lucky like that we grow up very, very close. So if I do have a problem, I do talk to her. If I see that I do need support, and I talk to my mom, I'm very, very close to my mom. My mom listens to everything that I say. Sometimes she gets tired, I think. So I do get support, but sometimes I find that with my family, I will not get the support that I need. So if I really, really need support, I speak to God, or I do have one friend or two friends that basically are always there to listen to my cry, but mostly is God. And I find that when I confide in God with whatever I'm going through, I do get a healing, because if I sit down basically and I have a chair there and I pretend, my pastor taught me to do that. I pretend this is God, and I will speak and I will speak and I will speak and I will speak. By the time I finish, and I don't have to walk away, I have to sit down for 10 minutes. So because I need to get the response. So sometimes, and if you do that all the time, if you are a Christian, that's what helps me. That I basically I communicate with God. It does help me. I find that if I rely on human beings, I'm always gonna be disappointed, because you have to understand human are like us. So they're not perfect. They're not going to get what you're going through. Some people, like Dr. Bickett was saying, they feel that when you're grieving, why are you grieving this long? There's a certain time where you have to basically to be completely healed. Or if you're going through something, they feel that a process has to be fast. But for me, basically, I believe that everyone has a different, the process is different with whatever you go through. Like Dr. Bickett, you talk about when your hair when your hair was falling off and your nails, but you had that courage to actually look at the problem and sort out the problem, and you had your healing process. And that healing process, it taught you something. It's a lesson that you've learned from it that you can actually go and teach somebody else. But if I was to force myself and say, okay, I'm grieving today, but tomorrow I've got to be okay. I am meeting Dr. Biggett, I've got to be okay. So for me, basically, I have my principles, Gina, and in place. That if you want to hang out with me, okay, I'm not going to bombard you with my problems. So you have to accept me for who I am. I've got no time to pretend to be something that I'm not. My family, they know that very well, that I don't have time. If I'm not okay, I'm not okay. I can tell you today, if I'm meeting you, that, okay, by the way, if you see that I'm quiet, don't worry, I'm going through something. But if I feel that I can tell you about that something, I tell you. But I would never ever pretend to be something that I'm not if I don't feel okay. And that's why actually I was able to sort out the problem with this Satanism that I didn't know. And because my pastor, he was shocked actually after he said, no, sir, I can see that when we were talking, you wanted to actually, you wanted to hold. Can you keep this attitude of expressing who you are and help other people? Because I can see this is who you are. Sometimes you have to accept who you are. So I was like, okay. So it did help me going through that process, because I didn't know what was going on. You know, sometimes when you read the Bible, you're reading something that is written, and then it comes to reality. You are like, hey, what's going on? So he was like, yeah, you have to understand that what you read in the Bible is not that is written, is real. So it will come to reality somehow. You're going to have to deal with it. So those were the things that I've learned, that you have to speak up, and you have to basically learn to be with friends who are authentic. Hang out with people that are authentic. Hang out with people, with a family. Be with a family. Basically, if your family accepts you who you are, you can be a change in your bloodline by teaching people, not being hard on people, by teaching people how to be themselves. So when I pray, I say, God, help me to be basically to be a breakthrough for my family. That means I need to be the things that are in my bloodline, are holding my bloodline back. I need to break those chains. So you can be that when it comes to reality in life. So that's why there are so many chains that people are chains. But in Gossip Talk Show is all about basically we don't hold back. And we are real, basically. We are not entertainment because the talk show. We talk about the reality. And the reality is the people, they take their own life. And we do have mental health problems that we face, which is a reality. So we're not going to say, okay, I'm this, I'm this. So we don't do all that. Our coaches basically, they are like upfront in the reality. So that's what I love about Gossip Talk shows. And what is Gina saying? Yeah, that is so true. Okay. Oh, yeah. You guys need to connect because I think you are in the same. Gina is in America as well. So yeah, you need to connect. And Dr. Biggett, I'm not sure what is happening with Dr. Laura. So do you have any words of encouragement before we leave?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you say that, Numsa and Gina. That's very true, real life, and that's definitely something that I absolutely say it's so true because there are a lot of theories and there are a lot of this and that, and then at the end of the day, if life is life, and we have reality, and thank you for sharing that, Gina, and just know that there are times even when we are very connected to God, we feel that it will be better if we end everything. That is definitely I can only imagine how much pain you were in, and might still be in, and thank you being willing to share that with us, and that is um, something that many people feel. I felt that in when I went through things as well, and if we have connections with God, sometimes it is helpful, and for some just like you mentioned, and my own experience as well, it's like, well, I thought I trust you, God, and now I'm going through this. And what the heck you doing? Why do you put me through this? And definitely and that's a normal and natural feeling. Sometimes we feel or think that way, and then we feel guilty. And please know that it's not because you have weakness or something, and it's not because you suddenly become a sinner. No, you are not. It is a normal and natural reaction. Dr. Viktor Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, says that, and you are asking for my last message. That would be my last message, for today, and until I see you next week. But Dr. Viktor Frankl says an abnormal behavior in an abnormal circumstance is normal behavior. So if you suddenly find yourself liking things that you used to hate, which is happened with me with broccoli. I used to hate broccoli so much. And when I was like practically borderline nervous breakdown, I suddenly like craving steamed broccoli, and it was the strangest thing on earth. And so, or you usually very close to God, and now you like, I cannot even listen the single word, that the word God make me furious. Just know it's not because you're a sinner, it's not because you are wrong, it's or you're bad or anything in that manner. An abnormal behavior in an abnormal circumstance is normal. Now, if you are in a positions of feeling discomfort, reach out to us. We're here for you in a real life manner. We're not going to, the coaches here not going to spew out a whole textbook to you. That's not the way we do. We're here to connect with you, and we are here. I provide complimentary laser coaching, complimentary consultations. Simply connect with me on my email or my link there, and know that we're here for you. You're not alone. And yes, your family might not understand you, your friend might not understand you. We are here for you. The world has changed in such a way that it is like Numsa says, it's you are here, and you are supported, and we want you to come from your heart.
Dr. Laura, what happened? You disappeared.
Let's just say that I'll give you an analogy, okay? Imagine that there's a huge auditorium, and across the stage there's a banner that reads, the National Annual Convention of Functional Families. And there are 2 people in the audience. There's only 2 people there. There's no such thing as functional anymore. What's functional is what some people might call dysfunctional. That's the normal. The normal is there's no functional person. Every single person who's every single person on this globe can find themselves within what's called the DSM-5. That's a Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Psychologists, for APA, American Psychological Association. The reason why that we categorize and we label is so that we can better understand. At the same time, we are all categorizable and we're all labeled in some way. So my challenge to you all is to notice and recognize that wherever we are, there we go. And wherever we go, there we are. There's no other place to be than to right where you are at right now. You're perfectly imperfect, and so am I. There's nothing wrong with you. And I implore you to pick up the phone, to contact Dr. Tan or myself. Talk to someone who's a qualified practitioner, qualified professional, because a lot of people want to give advice. A lot of people want to go out of their lane. And the key thing is, and I'll leave you with this, is that those who mind don't matter. And those who matter don't mind. What I mean by that is that those who mind, everybody's in your business. Everybody's looking out. What's she doing now? What's he doing now? Those who mind about you, do they really matter? Do they really have your best interest at heart? And those who matter don't mind. Those who truly matter to you, they don't mind that you have maybe these idiosyncrasies or these quirks or something like that, and then love you regardless because of we're loved because of our imperfections. So I implore you to embrace yourself, love yourself, and know that all is well no matter what. There's something to be said for reaching out. And I think of this past summer, for those of you who watched the Olympics, Simone Biles, the gymnast, world renowned for her expertise, her genius, her brilliance. And in that moment where she was supposed to win all the golds and to just dominate everybody, she took the one leadership role that she could, and she took a step down and she said, I'm not okay. And she was okay enough to say, I'm not okay. And I still get goosebumps about it. And on that platform, she bore witness to everything that so many of us have felt so deeply inside. So when you feel like you're on that global platform and you're afraid to say, I can't do this, I'm going to hurt myself, meaning that she wasn't going to physically hurt herself, but her brain couldn't resonate, couldn't be in that place where it was safe for her. It's okay if you don't feel safe. There are people who will help you feel safe, because we need each other. Otherwise, we're not safe. We're here to connect. Thank you for letting me be on the stage today.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Numsa's goes. Hopefully, she'll jump right back on. But I love that you say that, Dr. Laura, that those who truly love you, even if just notice those who truly love you, people react. People, most people, unless you're a trained professional, typically people react. So even if you say something to a family member, the one who truly love you, and they say, oh, what? Just know it might just their initial reaction. And a lot of time, it's not because they do not love you. They love you. But when people receive an unexpected news, they might react, and love can express itself, and their concern can express itself many times. We know this, as anger, as taken aback or something. And it doesn't, if you ever see a parent says a kid about a parents with a kid, the kid about to run across the street in front of a car, and the parents and the mom or dad grab the kid, take him back and say, what the heck are you doing? And sit there and screaming. It's not because the parents don't love the kid. It's love turned into fear turned into anger. And so even if you feel at the beginning your family or something don't love you, it might, first of all, they don't have the understanding, and then it could be also the moment of expressions. If they truly love you, they will continue love you. My best example, one of the most impressive one or memorable one for me, is actually, it's in my book, actually, Seeking Peace, the proven five fingers method, and it is available on Amazon in any country. The proven five fingers method to thrive through change effortlessly. This in here you find a story. This book is in story style. It is to make it easier to read. And under 18 Scar, there's a story about a lady who actually was cutting herself up because of feeling guilty of something that she has done. And she believed all this year, for 18 years, 18 scars, because she cut herself every year. And because she said, well, she mentioned it to somebody, and she believed that these people and that people will be against her if she ever says her secret. And little did she know, after we worked together, she was able to make peace about it. And then she tell people who truly matter, like you said, the people who truly matter, who truly love her, she share it with them. And her mother and her sister said, honey, if I had said something in the past, that's not because we hate you, because we were just concerned, and we love you. And they embrace her so much, which helped her with her healing, thankfully. And so, yes, people who truly care about you, people who truly love you, people who matter, people who matter, they will be there for you. Love has no end. And even if at the beginning it looks like they're appalled or they're taken aback, well, then that's what we're here for, Dr. Laura and myself here, because we know how in professional and trained way how to help you. And so we're here for you. And I'm not sure where Numsa goes, but I will connect with her. She might have an internet connection challenge or something. And Dr. Laura, is there any other message that you would love to share?
No, there's not. I beg your pardon. I'm about to sneeze again. And I would just like for you to know that no matter what, you're not alone. And you can always reach out to either myself or Dr. Tan, and we'll be here for you. You can contact me on LinkedIn, or you can contact me on my email, Laura, that's Laura, at drdrlauracobb.com. It's Laura at drlauracobb.com. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, Dr. Laura, and thank you for joining us, Gina. You have a wonderful day as well, and lovely meeting you. And let's connect. Anyone who wants to connect with me, again, it's Birgit at Birgit10, or my link is on the chat here. Feel free to just simply make an appointment, and we look forward to connecting with all of you again sometime soon. And make it an awesome day.